Hey guys, Jordan here from Tech Today, and action cameras have come a long way in the past few years, with GoPro being among the first to hit the market. But in this video, I'm going to be exploring a more budget offering that's known as the AKASO EK7000, which aims at providing comparable high quality photos and videos regardless of conditions. So, welcome to my full review. Now first off, let's start out with the specs of the AKASO just to see what we're dealing with. So the EK7000 is featuring a 12 megapixel image sensor that's capable of shooting up to 4K resolution at 25 FPS, along with 2.7K at 30 FPS, 1080p at 60 and 30 FPS, and for some ultra slow motion shots, you could step down to 720p for 120 FPS. Although I'm not sure if that's such a good idea to sacrifice all that resolution just for slow-mo. And in terms of waterproofability, the AKASO can withstand submersion up to 30 meters or about 100 feet, given its IP68 housing, which means that you'll be able to do some pretty extreme deep sea diving if you're into that kind of thing. So next let's move on to the design and build quality of the AKASO, and it certainly doesn't disappoint in my opinion. So covering the whole camera unit itself is a soft rubbery texture that has a diamond grip pattern around all the edges, which makes it a bit easier to hold. And even though some of the other GoPros have portions made of plastic, I find no problem with the complete use of silicone. And in terms of the layout of buttons, it resembles GoPro's lineup very similarly, with the record button on top, followed by the power and mode button on the front. There's even a set of up and down buttons that makes it easier when scrolling through the camera's menus. You'll also find a micro USB port for charging and a micro HDMI, along with a micro SD card slot for storage of course. But really one of my favorite features of the AKASO is the 2-inch screen that's found around back. I just find that being able to see what you're shooting is such a convenient feature, and it's ultimately one of the reasons why I like this camera so much. So now moving on to the actual quality that comes out of this camera, overall it's much better than expected, and I actually took some test shots side by side with my basic GoPro Hero, so you can use that as a point of reference. So generally, I found the footage from the AKASO to be relatively sharp in comparison to my actual GoPro, although some of the higher end models, like the Hero 5 Black Edition, will likely yield much better quality. But unfortunately, I don't have that camera to use for comparison purposes. Moving on though, I also tended to find that the colors were much more vibrant and realistic on the AKASO as opposed to the GoPro at 1080p at least. As for the 4K and 2.7K shots, they certainly are sharper, but I wouldn't say it's that significant since honestly the 1080p is sufficient for me, and the 4K files are just too large in my opinion. But if you're all about those pixels and have a 4K display to watch it on, then that option is there if you'd like to use it. And for the picture quality, all I can say is that it's nothing worth bragging about, but after all, you're likely going to mostly use this camera for video, so I don't really see that as being much of a problem for the average user, but for the occasional picture, you should be fine. But in general, even when not compared to another alternative on the market, I found the footage to be very decent, so definitely 2 thumbs up for image quality. So in terms of the functionality of the AKASO, overall, it's pretty easy to use. And typically, the menu systems are what makes a product clunky to operate, but in this case, they're very easy to navigate whether you'd like to change the resolution or the time-lapse interval. And as I mentioned previously, with the display in conjunction with the arrow buttons, this task is made much easier. And to make the camera even simpler to use, there's a remote wristband similar to the GoPro remotes that allows you to start and stop a video or take a picture on the fly, which is a really convenient feature. As for the battery life, AKASO claims that you can shoot for up to 90 minutes. Although unfortunately, I haven't used the camera for that long in between charges to know if this is actually true or not. But I have noticed that the battery life does significantly diminish after recording for not that long. But thankfully there are 2 batteries in the box, so if it ever happens to die, you can just swap in a new one. So now comes the big question, should you pick this action camera up? And I can confidently recommend it due to a variety of reasons, with some of which include its great functionality, ease of use, and relatively good image quality, but also its ability to shoot up to full 4K resolution. And for only about $85 on Amazon, with a bunch of accessories included, it's truly a no-brainer that's definitely worth picking up if you're in need of a new everything-proof camera for your next adventure. So that pretty much sums up my review of the AKASO EK7000. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, feel free to drop me a comment down below on your thoughts and if you would pick this one up. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video!